Dr. Manisha Singh. Hi, Dr. Singh.
Hi.
How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this interview. So, I'm going to ask you a few questions about your experience and what brought you to where you are today. How does that sound?
Perfect.
Sounds good. So, first off, what do you do at UAMS?
I'm a clinical educator, that is another rank of associate professor. Take care of patients, I teach students, and I do a little bit of research on the side, and I do a lot of other fun activities that only UMS knows about.
So, you're a nephrologist,
I'm a
correct?
nephrologist, yes.
So, was that always your first choice, like the first specialty you had in mind when you came to med school?
So not really. When I came to med school, I had absolutely no idea where I was going to go with this. Initially, I just wanted to be I not just I had wanted to be a primary physician, and I wanted to take care of everybody, children, older people, women. But as my training grew, I realized that you really can't do all of it all the time. And gradually, and my mother had breast cancer, so initially she really wanted me to be a cancer doctor, an oncologist. That was my first differential. Then wanted to be a GI doctor at some point. I wanted to be a rheumatologist, a geriatrician. In the end, it turned out that I was the best fit for nephrology.
So, what made you fall in love with nephrology?
A few things. Basically, when you're an internist at heart, you really can't let go of the other organs. And kidneys are your most intelligent organs. You think of this, that you take a cup of coffee and maybe you get a bag of chips with it. Now there's this massive salt load that's coming to the body, and there's this diuretic coming with the coffee. But your brain can't handle that. The kidneys will actually tease out each of those sodium atoms and what. It was fascinating. So it's an internist life, but with this whole focus through the lens of the kidneys.
That's really cool. So, for people that might not be familiar with the field, what do you do as a nephrologist?
Okay, so there are broad areas in nephrology. Kidneys basically clean your body up. Everything that you know about homeostasis is from the kidneys, the cleaning system of the body. When that doesn't work, there are different aspects that we have. Some people lose their kidneys entirely. In that case, we do dialysis or transplant is one of the options. We take care of the transplant patients about a year out of their transplant. We take care of patients on dialysis. You can do dialysis in a center or you can do it at home. My focus is trying to get them home with their dialysis programs. Other than that, you also take care of a lot of electrolyte issues. Sodium, potassium, all of those are stuff we play with. We also take care of teaching, fellowship teaching, medical student teaching. So as a nephrologist, you're also an educator.
So, how do you recommend that current medical students go about choosing their specialty?
Upfront, in the beginning, when you join med school, you're probably going to find the renal module one of the intimidating ones. But that's just because it's the first, it's like first time you meet someone really awesome. It takes your breath away. But give it a little time. Once it starts sitting with you, then shadow a nephrologist. See what we do at the end of that tunnel. Okay, there is really a lot of light at the end of the tunnel. After you shadow the person, then there are some specific things you can do to generate, more confidence in yourself, learn a little bit more. ASN, or American Society of Nephrology, has a lot of programs for students that gives you a better exposure to nephrology. We also have a lot of programs at UAMS. You just need to let us know.
That's great. So, you did your medical school in India and residency here at UMS. So, what do you think was the most hardest part about medical school?
The hardest part of med school for me had been because my personal life and my med school life was kind of entangled in an odd way. I had my baby in the first year of med school, and that was tough to manage a child with your med school education. Med school in itself is not really it's a challenging one of the most challenging things you do in your life. Um, and in that whole sequence, I think I didn't realize how much I needed to take care of myself. And I'm still working on that. I'm better than I used to be, but I'm not entirely there yet.
So, on the flip side of that, what do you think was the most rewarding or enjoyable part?
This is a vocation. So, this is really not something you do. You become a physician. So the most beautiful part of it is the change I find in myself. That on my worst day, I take care of people. On my best day, I take care of people. I don't think there's anything nobler than that. I do, let me take that back, maybe a teacher's profession. I think teachers are amazing. But other than that, I would say that hands down, the worth of your life becomes so much more.
So, about your time in India, after medical school, you worked as a medical officer and assistant civil surgeon in Jharkhand. So, tell me about that experience. What did you do?
So that is something to be seen to be believed because we would go to remote locations. There was this pulse polio drive. We go vaccinate we had no child left behind policy. We worked in villages. We worked in farms. I've delivered a calf because they just assume that if you're a doctor, you can pretty much do anything. Um, I saw extreme poverty, and I felt limited sometimes because of lack of resources. Initially, I thought that maybe the more training I get, I'll be able to work more in those areas. But then when I came here, I found that we're probably dealing with something very similar here too.
So, do you think that experience kind of shaped the way you approach practice here?
Yes, absolutely. I never forget for a day the kind of resources I have, and that makes me a diligent and a frugal physician. I cannot waste anything. I know what it means not to have that.
That's amazing. So, after that, you started working as an educator as well, correct?
Mm.
So, did that kind of start your passion for teaching and such that kind of brought you to be a professor here?
Yes, the origins of the word doctor actually is in an educator or a teacher. My initial, teaching experiences were teaching younger students, and then gradually as it grew, I realized that I understood a subject much better once I was teaching it to somebody else. And then it just, when you see that aha moment in the eyes of a student, you know that they've got that what you're trying to get across to them, or they're struggling with a particular concept and suddenly they get it. That part gives me a good feeling.
So, we talked a little bit about your responsibilities outside of the hospital. You're associate professor at UAMS, director for the home dialysis programs at UAMS and the Veterans Hospital, a fellow of the American Society of Nephrology, a counselor with Women in Nephrology, and the president for OPI Arkansas. That's incredible. How do you balance all these responsibilities with a busy career as a physician?
So, idea is that you do the best you can. What I can't do, I can't do. But what I can do, I will. And the idea is to put myself out there. And my goal is at the end of the day, out of the 10 things that I've picked up for the day, there should be at least two that were left undone. Not because that I just didn't, I was too lazy to do it, but because I'd used my time enough. And all these parts are actually extensions of the same role. It's an educator's role that is going everywhere. Where we want to change, then we need to step up and make that change happen. Right? This is the Gandhian principle, and I am a big fan of that principle.
So, what got you interested in being involved in a variety of these organizations?
It started partly with the disparities we saw. Even though we have a lot of excellent male physicians, they don't have the perspective that we have as a woman physician, and they're not even aware of what they don't know, right? So when I started facing those disparities, I realized that somebody needs to step up and say something. And the moment we stepped up and said something, things changed. So it wasn't that it's impossible. It was just that, and I met some excellent mentors on the way. I had mentors in women in nephrology that sort of showed me how to handle stuff, how to be more professional myself. Earlier I would just go in this black mood and say that, that person was horrible. That doesn't help anybody. I needed to know how to fix stuff without getting personally, emotionally involved in that. And those mentors showed me the way, and then I'm just passing it on.
Amazing. So, what are some of those disparities that you mentioned?
Um, so small examples will be like in India, most of the times we are taken as nurses. Now, nursing is a noble profession. I admire it a lot, but a physician is a different person. We would, if there is, if there are simple things in a party, if there is somebody serving, usually the women will get up, or nobody would serve the women. They'll come out to do mostly menial tasks were expected from that, but that's a separate part of the society. As a woman physician, the pay scales were not equal. Even in the US, you'll find there is a disparity that is there in the pay scale of what a woman physician will make to a male physician. That's not universal, and each institute does what they can do. But that is kind of a common phenomena. Even if you're trying to present in a class, you'll find that you get interrupted very often. Even as you're introduced, you'll find that we actually there are papers on this, I guess, that when they call out your name, when they're calling you to the podium, they'll say, "Doctor, this is coming up. Doctor, that is coming up," and Manisha is coming. So they find it easy to slip that doctor word out. It's taken an arm and a leg and all my life to become a doctor. It's not that they are trying to be this. They're trying to make you feel bad. It's just that it doesn't light up immediately. Then there would be research shows that your funding can be different, your expectations. If a woman speaks up, if I say that, listen, I don't have the time to do this, it might be seen as an aggressive behavior rather than just what a professional person should do. If you don't have a time for something, you need to say that. So it's a lot to do with the non-medical aspects of medicine. Medicine, everybody knows the same. I'm quite sure my knowledge of nephrology is as good or as bad as somebody else who has the same training. But it's a lot to do with the social aspects of what nephrology would look like, or any medicine or any profession in the world would look like.
So, what do you think are some things that need to be changed or can be changed to improve these disparities?
So, first thing is on us. Our responsibility is to show up and hold your ground. We need to get there. You need to be on the table. Sometimes you feel that you're not really, you don't have anything to display for your being there. But we need to stand up and show up and just hold your ground and speak up for what you think can be done different. There is always what we do with the patients, there's a kind and a firm way of saying something. We need to do that. We need to be our own voices. Once we start speaking up, then the system starts changing. You need to stop accepting disparity first. Then we also have some biases. We need to be aware of that. Not every guy out there who calls me Manisha is actually, being mean or doesn't understand this. So to do it kindly is important. We'll make more friends. Doing it nicely is important. But again, firm and kind. We need to show up, hold our grounds, and keep calling out what you see is not correct.
So, one of the main things that people think about when choosing a specialty is about work life balance. So, how do you think that works for you when it comes to spending time with family or doing things outside of work?
Yes. And that's a very important question because no matter which form of, which aspect of medicine you pick up, the work life balance does tend to get a little imbalanced. Now we're trying to talk about work life harmony because initially it's different. So it depends on the stage of life you're in. When you're a very young person coming into medicine, your family is new, there are a lot more demands from your family. It's likely that your time that you need to spend with your family, it can get limited and it can be painful. But that's not going to be the story all your life. And you need to understand that part that this balance needs to change with time. The first thing to do is to take care of yourself. If you're not healthy, you can't take care of any of it. So, and this I learned the hard way. Whenever it was, if I could just grab a bag of chips or just have a cupcake while I was running off to take care of something, rather than pick up a fruit. It was as simple as that. And I ended up, 50 pounds overweight. And now I can do less than I could have done if I wasn't in this situation. So, first is taking care of ourselves. And then understanding that it doesn't have to be isolated. Work is a part of you, your family is also a part of you. Most of us think that the most important priority is your family, your work, and then you. It is actually you, your family, then your work. It should be in that order. To make a balance happen, you need to actually write it down. What are the things that you're doing in a day? What are the things you can get away from? Because what's precious and what's limited is the time. And once you get that organized, everything else falls into place.
So, switching gears a little bit, going back to talking about med school, are there any things that you wish you knew before going into medical school or residency?
Yes, I think before going in was that whole part about taking care of yourself. Because the when the ask is tremendous, you need to give tremendous effort. And you cannot give tremendous effort if you yourself are not feeling right. Whether it's your mental health, whether it's your physical health, you need to absolutely focus on that first. That doesn't mean that you become a self-centered person. It's not like, it's really warm now, I can't possibly, function. Not like that. But that your exercise, my yoga meditation, the food that I eat, the way I treat people, and the way I accept to be treated by people, those things needed to be guarded, protected, and enhanced.
So, finally, do you have any last minute tips or advice for medical students or pre med students wanting to go into medical school?
My advice is that if you're thinking of it, if you want to put your heart and soul in it, go for it. Put everything that you have in this. There are going to be no regrets at the end of it. If your target is to be a worthy person, I would emphasize take care of mental health, physical health, upfront every time, and that way you yourself will serve the world in a manner that's really something that would make you feel really happy.
Well, Dr. Singh, that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.